Molten gold. Cities burning. A dark lord, once again clothed in black. The new trailer of the Rings of Power promises grand spectacle, suggesting the fate of Middle-earth hinges entirely on massive armies, falling kingdoms, and the forging of the One Ring. Perhaps it will, yet Tolkien understood that the crucial battles of his world were rarely decided by steel alone. They took place within the quiet chambers of the human heart. The trailer invites us to watch the rings being forged. Tolkien invites us to ask a far deeper question. Not what the rings can accomplish, but what they ultimately demand from those who wear them. Welcome back to the Greyhaven's Hour. Whether this season succeeds as an adaptation is discussion for another time. The more compelling question is whether it still grasps the central truth Tolkien intended these rings to reveal. When we discuss the Rings of Power, the instinct is to catalogue their abilities, measure their strength, their magic, and their utility. Tolkien begins elsewhere. He anchors the narrative in human longing. The tragedy of the Second Age does not start with open conquest. It originates in a motive that appears noble on its surface: the impulse to arrest decay, to safeguard beauty, and to shield a changing world from loss. No one felt that ache more acutely than the Elves. Age after age, they watched memories slip into the West, kingdoms diminished under the weight of centuries, and splendour quietly fade beyond recovery. They did not crave rule over others. They sought to freeze time itself. It was precisely through this vulnerability that Sauron gained his foothold. He arrives not with marching legions, but as Anatar, the Lord of Gifts. Tolkien offers a profound moral insight here. Evil rarely demands that we love what is wicked. Instead, it coaxes us to protect what is good, through compromising means. Middle-earth operates on a strict moral framework. Power is never gained for free. It is exchanged. Every shortcut exacts a toll. Every attempt to master time eventually binds the master. The rings are far more than magical tools. They are diagnostic instruments. They lay bare what each heart considers worth saving at any cost. And once that inner motive is revealed, Sauron knows exactly how to manipulate it. The Elves are often viewed as serene, untroubled keepers of ancient lore, beings who stand above the messiness of mortal existence. Yet Tolkien gives them a distinct, enduring sorrow. Mortals fear death. The Elves fear the endless passage of time. Imagine living through thousands of years, watching every forest slowly alter, every mortal friend age, and pass beyond the world, and every realm crumble into ruin. Over millennia, memory turns from a treasured haven into an unbearable burden. For men, time flows past like a river. For the Elves, it gathers like a rising tide, sweeping away everything they cherish while leaving them behind to remember. When Galadriel speaks of fighting the long defeat, she captures the core of Elven sorrow, the pain of loving a realm that cannot remain static. Sauron did not corrupt the elves by appealing to malice. He infiltrated their grief, reframing their sorrow until it sounded like wisdom. The elves did not seek conquest. They wanted to halt the clock, heal the wounds of time, and keep Middle-earth in an eternal spring. They wished to suspend the falling autumn leaf in mid-air, not out of hatred of the coming winter, but out of sheer devotion to the leaf. This was the trap within Anatar's offering. He gave form to the yearning that already consumed them. Working alone in secret, Celebrimbor forged the three: Narya, Nenya, and Vilya. Sauron never touched these three with his own hands. Their intent was pure: to restore, to heal, to maintain hope against the steady march of centuries. Yet the moment Sauron slipped the one ring onto his finger, the terrible truth was exposed. The three were intrinsically linked to the one. Though Sauron had not forged them directly, Celebrimbor had employed the foundational craft taught by the Dark Lord. Unwittingly, the elves had absorbed his subtle logic, the notion that time could be mastered, and that beauty should be retained through power rather than held with gratitude. Loving Middle-earth was never the elves' mistake. Their error lay in believing that love granted them the right to freeze the world in place. For Tolkien, love reaches its finest form, not when it grips tightly, but when it learns to let go. Preservation, when pushed beyond its proper boundaries, quietly transforms into possession. And possession is always the first step towards the desire of control. If the elves suffered from the ability to let the world age, the tragedy of the dwarves stemmed from a very different impulse. They looked into the depths of the earth and saw the raw material for enduring legacy. Tolkien's dwarves are not merely hoarders. They are master artisans whose labour turns rough rock into architectural marvels, shaping metal with unmatched skill. The story of the Seven Rings represents both a failure and a victory for Sauron. The dwarves proved remarkably resistant, possessing a toughness of spirit that prevented them from turning into invisible wraiths or bending entirely to his command. Yet Sauron adapted. Unable to break their wills directly, the Seven amplified the dwarves' inherent trait until their greatest strength became their undoing. Their passion for fine craftsmanship expanded into an insatiable need for greater treasure. Their patient delving hardened into an obsession that recognized no safety limits. The rings removed restraint. Unlike the Nine Rings, which visibly hollowed out their victims, the sickness of the Seven looked convincingly like prosperity. Vaults overflowed, engineering reached legendary heights, and the realm expanded even as the hunger driving it all grew impossible to satisfy. Greed destroyed the very concept of enough. Once contentment is gone, warnings sound like cowardice. Restraint sounds like oppression, and the stubborn strength that once protected the dwarves binds them to their own ambition. The fallout extended far beyond the mountain halls. These massive hordes drew the attention of ancient terrors. The wealth gathered to guarantee security ultimately invited dragonfire. 4 of the 7 were consumed by flames. 3 eventually returned to Sauron. The Dwarves proved that a people strong enough to resist an outward tyrant can still fall captive to the unchecked compulsion of their own creation. Beneath every pursuit of power or renown lies a deeper, ancient anxiety, the desire to escape mortality itself. Tolkien's legendarium does not frame death as a curse, nor a flaw in creation. It is presented as a gift of the LOTR, a destiny allowing men to pass beyond the confines of Arda entirely. The Elves are bound to the world until its end. Men are not. Over time, this gift is misconstrued. Men looked upon the enduring life of the Elves and allowed admiration to decay into envy, and envy into bitterness. Tolkien termed this fear the Great Shadow, the conviction that mortality is an injustice to be fought rather than a mystery to be trusted. Into this rift, Sauron offered the ultimate temptation: control over fate itself. The 9 rings were given to great rulers and formidable warriors, men capable of heavy responsibility. At first, the rings appeared to deliver on their promise, extending lives, boosting authority, and expanding influence. Yet Tolkien clarifies that this was never true immortality. Life was not enriched, it was merely stretched thin. The years accumulated while true vitality stalled, leaving existence hollowed out. Centuries later, Bilbo Baggins would describe feeling like butter scraped over too much bread. In the 9, that stretching reached its grim conclusion. Their invisibility symbolizes complete spiritual erosion. They did not become more formidable. They grew thin and transparent, fading from the physical world until they existed solely as extensions of Sauron's will. When Sauron later stood as a captive in Numenor, he didn't need rings to corrupt the island empire. He used the exact same falsehood, convincing a great civilization that mortality was an insult. The rules of the Valar were an oppression, and the everlasting life could be taken by force. The greatest kingdom of men set sail not in hope, but in defiance, trying to seize by conquest what could only ever be received through trust. Every ring highlights a vulnerability in its wearer, but the one ring exposes the fatal flaw of its creator. When Sauron forged the One in the fires of Mount Doom, he poured a massive portion of his inherent power into an external object. He believed that by concentrating his essence, he could bind all other wills in Middle-earth, while remaining invulnerable himself. The One Ring is the physical manifestation of Sauron's ambition, his refusal to accept limits, and his drive to reorder creation according to his sole command. Yet this act creates a massive paradox. The more of himself he poured into the ring, the more dependent he became upon it. The tool built to guarantee his absolute dominance became the single point of failure upon which the survival rests. Seeking ultimate freedom, he achieved absolute dependence. The pattern across the entire history of the rings is clear. Every ring promised more time, more wealth, more certainty, more authority. Yet the ring left its bearer with less. Evil, in Tolkien's lore, cannot truly create anything new. It can only drain what already exists, turning beauty into obsession, craftsmanship into greed, and life into an endless, empty endurance. There is a final irony at the heart of Tolkien's epic that upends the whole logic of the rings. When Frodo stands at the crack of doom, exhausted and broken by an impossible burden, his resolve fails. He claims the ring for himself. For a moment, it appears that sheer force and temptation have won. Yet the story does not end here. Decades before Frodo reached the fire, quiet decisions had been made in the dark. Gandalf advocates for pity. Bilbo spared Gollum. Frodo chose mercy on the slopes of the mountain. Those acts of compassion, which a mind like Sauron's dismissed as foolish weakness, became the very mechanism of his undoing. The ring is not destroyed by a superior display of force. It is undone through the unexpected fruits of mercy. It is easy to view the rings of power purely as mythical relics of an ancient age. But Tolkien holds up a mirror to our own lives. We will never be offered the ring of power, yet we routinely face quieter versions of the same impulse. The urge to cling too tightly to what we fear losing. The desire to find peace in one more achievement, one more safeguard, or one more leverage point. The struggle to accept our limits. The rings remain compelling, not because they showcase the Dark Lord's power, but because they reveal how easily we confuse control with peace. Tolkien does not ask if we would have the strength to destroy the ring. He leaves us with a quieter, lingering reflection. What are we still trying to force that was only ever meant to be received with grace? Thank you for joining me at the Havens today. If this journey through Tolkien's world gave you something meaningful to reflect on, I'd be honoured to have you subscribe and join us for the next chapter. Until next time, may your road go ever on. May your heart remain open to wonder, and may you always find hope beyond the horizon.